Alright, so you want me to talk about your show? Of course. Let me make sure my hair is in good shape here. Because, hair, hair is like the most important thing. I want to be the Tucker Carlson of this whole thing. It's a bit windy day today, and it's very cold and chilly here in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, New York. So just bear with me, there's going to be some wind background noise. Alright. First question. Oh, by the way, I'm Joe Reboy, and my relationship to Dead and Buried Treasures is that I am start that over. Hi, I'm Joe Reboy. My relationship to Dead and Buried Treasures is that I was looking for programs to put on WBXZ TV, and we were very much aware, my wife and I, we helped program the station. We were very much aware that there was an active, growing horror host community, so we were looking for some of the best shows out there. And one of the things that we ran across was this really beautifully, visually stunning horror host series, that, unlike most any other that we've seen. And so we contacted Eric and we asked him, would you let us use your show on there? And he got a Monday night slot at 11:30 every week, and it's a very colorful, very creative show, and it was a unique addition to the station. All right, so that actually is that's question number one on here. I got a number of questions. So, here's a good one. Joe, is your awesomeness a benefit or is it a hindrance to you? Well, of course, my awesomeness is, well, it's not so much a benefit to me. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I'm awesome all the time. But my greatness is a kind of a gift to other people. So, if you use that question, just make sure that you somehow put a lower third where it says incredible person or something like that. Avoid godlike. That's a little gauche, I think. At least that's what the last people said. Okay. Horror hosting success and history segment. Be honest. Did you ever know there was a thing such as horror hosting? How and why? Yes. Yes, I have been steeped in pop culture ever since I was a young person. And the reason that this was important, horror hosting was important to my wife and I, is that it was something that bound a lot of people. And as opposed to just showing the movies, having the horror host there adds a regular component, a warmth to the presentation. So that's why I was aware of them. And, sometimes you get some very creative stuff, even with very, very minimal budgets. So, yes, watched horror hosts one way or another for years on television, and as that faded from television, we found other sort of outlets for it. The internet has been great in terms of, revitalizing what was once a dying breed. There are now hundreds, literally hundreds, possibly 1,000 horror hosts out there. So, and Dead and Buried Treasures is one of them. Why is it important that these older movies be horror hosted? How is that beneficial? It is one thing to put the movies out there and to show them in a format where, say, let's take the quintessential horror movie, Night of the Living Dead. You can put that up and say, hey, tonight we're showing Night of the Living Dead. People have seen it. It being the quintessential one, almost everybody has seen it. But it needs something to freshen it up for the audience. They need some hook to it, which would be, hey, here's a really cool host doing something with this show that they have not seen before. And the horror host can add a sense of fun to it. Keeping the movies out there, though, is very important. And the other side of the coin is the very real probability that without the horror host presenting these films, giving that regular, stable presentation, that what would happen is people would simply stop watching them. And horror hosts sometimes say, hey, this is a really crappy movie, you won't like it, but we're going to show it anyhow. And other horror hosts will say, you know, I really like this movie. I know it's kind of cheesy, but I like this movie. But what happens when that horror host is there is people say, you know, I've never seen the she creature, for instance, or any number of films out there, obviously. Uh, but they sit down and they watch them, and they keep the films alive. They keep the work of people from years ago alive by sparking imagination somewhere along the line, saying, this is something interesting, something that I hadn't thought about, or I like what they did with that, or I was surprised how dark that film got. I mean, a classic example of a dark film that you didn't think was going to go as dark as it was The Sadist, which was, yeah, I remember watching that one back on a local broadcast channel back in the late 70s. I was playing hooky from school one day. Don't tell my principal about that. And there was an afternoon movie at like 1 o'clock in the middle of the week called The Sadist. And I'm not thinking anything about it. I turned it on. I'm just happy to not be at school. It was a bright sunny day. And this thing terrified the living crap out of me. I didn't know that a film from, I want to say 1961, 62, something like that, was going to go that dark. And so ever since, I've been enthralled with the idea of how a lot of these films that were made outside of the studio system could go there, could take films into, it could take the audience into places they hadn't been before. Last question is, it's basically a reprise of how awesome I am. I really don't want to belittle my greatness and my astoundingness. It's evident for everybody to see. That's the important part. Listen, thank you very much for having me here. I appreciated talking to you. And to the audience at home, enjoy.